What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Ryan Penagos from Marvel. Yay!
Yay! That's very cool.
First things first.
Yes.
We've known each other a long time.
Sure.
How did I do in your last name? Because it's the first time I've ever said it.
Great, actually. Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's always my biggest fear.
It's funny because so I have a half brother and a half sister that I only met through MySpace in like 2007.
What?
It's a whole thing.
Well, we'll get into it on this
Sure.
show. That's what this show's all about.
But they say it Penagos. I say it Penagos.
Okay.
So I feel like
Either way, I couldn't go wrong on that.
right.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I respect the way
appreciate
that they say it, even though I've always said it differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yes.
You work for Marvel.
I do.
I want to know all about that today. We're going to talk about this MySpace half family thing. But before we go any further, there's a lot of people freaking out right now while they watch this because they said, "Wait a second." I clicked on patreon.com/kindafunny on the link for Greg's Comic Book Club issue number 19. We're doing something very special here, ladies and gentlemen. What we're doing, of course, is that We Have Cool Friends is our show that airs every Monday, youtube.com/kindafunny, podcast services around the globe. Greg's Comic Book Club is a monthly show exclusive to patreon.com/kindafunny for $1. You go as $1.
Just $1?
And you get other stuff too.
Come on.
Exactly. However, with Ryan here, and it being very late on a Friday, and we did a whole bunch of cool Marvel content, my thought was to combine the shows for the first time ever. So the idea here is that this episode of We Have Cool Friends will be live for everybody later, but you're getting it, $1 supporters, early on patreon.com/kindafunny, ad-free, of course, all that jazz. And on top of that, when we're done with the We Have Cool Friends section, we're going to do the Comic Book Club issue 19 part, which, of course, was We Stand on Guard. We have to talk about that book.
Oh, my gosh.
Excited to talk about
I
some
love
comics?
it.
That part will be one big part of the show that's over on patreon.com/kindafunny. So if you're a normal We Have Cool Friends viewer or watcher, maybe you like this episode, you want to go to Patreon and give us $1 and you can watch it along with the 18 other issues of Greg's Comic Book Club, hours and hours of entertainment. But I digress. Housekeeping for you, of course, we're going to EGLX in October 18th and 19th. Myself, Nick, and Andy will be in Toronto, rocking EGLX. Come on, see us. And then, of course, we couldn't do We Have Cool Friends without our Patreon producers and sponsors like these. But see, again, since we're recording in advance, you don't know. Nobody knows what they are.
What a mystery.
Ryan.
Yes.
Agent M.
Sir.
How long have you worked at Marvel?
It'll be 13 years on October 30th of 2019.
That is a long time,
Yeah.
sir. Do you feel that that's been a long time?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Just because the world has changed in terms of the Marvel of it all and everything that we do. It has been a long time,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I get to do fun stuff. I enjoy what I do. Like part of what I was doing today was this morning I was hanging out with Adam Savage in his cave and talking to him about all the things he makes. And then I came over here to talk to you for 2 of our shows at Marvel. Yeah. And then I get to come and do this with you.
It's 2 shows in one. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's great.
So what is your title now? What do you do now at Marvel?
My title doesn't really reflect what I do.
Perfect.
Because that's a corporate stuff.
Of course,
that's the way it goes. It's fine.
Org charts.
Yeah. I've seen many of those in my day. I am vice president and creative executive for Marvel New Media.
Okay.
So
what does that mean?
So Marvel New Media is what was originally Marvel Digital Media. That was what I started in 2006. I started there as an associate editor on the website. So similar to you, journalism. I have a journalism degree and all that stuff.
Where from?
SUNY Purchase in right near, really, probably like 8 minutes away from where the X-Men would have lived, Westchester.
Yeah.
And so now it's a lot of hosting. It's a lot of, I have 2 podcasts. I have a video show. We have New York Comic Con is days away from when we're recording this. And so there's a million things that I'm doing there. And so it's a lot of getting in front of people and doing fun stuff and telling people why I'm so excited about Marvel, to help them get excited about Marvel, to teach them about Marvel, to share with them about Marvel. It's just like get to celebrate Marvel.
What was the job originally when you came in then? Was it just writing blogs?
Yeah, it was associate editor. So I'll back up a little bit because I know you're a Wizard magazine
Oh,
fan.
you know I'm a Wizard guy. You know I
Yeah,
love Wizard.
of course.
Yeah.
I remember my first issue of Wizard was issue number 8. I closed my eyes. Will Portasio cover. It has Bishop with his beautiful mullet, and he's got the Wizard robe draped over him.
Yeah.
So
I remember
good.
that one.
Yeah. That was the first issue I bought, and I was like, this is everything I want about comics. And like, I think that was the first signal of like, oh, I like entertainment journalism.
Sure.
And then like talking about things that I like and having that conversation. And so I got my journalism degree at SUNY Purchase and graduated, and Toy Fair magazine, which is a sister magazine of Wizard.
Yeah.
They had
Zach the Malamute.
I haven't thought about that in a while. And so Toy Fair had an opening for an assistant editor.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. I think I know what that does. I'll apply for it. I have a journalism degree. It'll be great. And where I went to school and where I was living was so close to where Wizard was at the time. It was 20 minutes away from there. And so I apply. End of school year, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear anything back. I remember I was in my apartment in college like a month before closing up and moving back home. And I get a phone call. It's like, hi, can I speak to Ryan? And it's like, yes. Hi, my name is Justin Ackland. I'm at Toy Fair Magazine. You applied for the job of assistant editor. And I was like, yes. Hi, hello. And he's like, I got the job. I'm sorry, but I need a freelance writer. Would you like to write freelance for me? And I said, yes, of course. Whatever to get me in my foot in the door.
Sure, yeah, totally, dude.
The fun thing about that is Justin Ackland he's been a great friend of mine for 15 years. He works very closely with Nintendo right now and video game stuff. And the guy who told him to give me a shot at freelance is Matt Senreich, who works for Stupid Buddy, who is one of the creators of Robot Chicken. Yeah. Matt is a huge gamer, huge fan, has been a good friend. So it's like funny how these, the people along the way help you out, right?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So important. So I start writing freelance. I go back home, live with my mom for,
And what year are we at right now, roughly?
So this is 2002.
Okay.
2002. And I go back home, get a job at Blockbuster. I'm just working retail.
Trying to make it happen.
Yeah, freelancing at night, calling. I had many phone calls to Hong Kong because I was doing articles about military toys.
Okay.
I know nothing about military toys, but I guess I was doing it fine, writing about them. This goes on for a while. They say
the readers didn't know anything either. They were like, all right, military toys. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Fake it and you make it. And so I'm doing it, and then I get a phone call from Wizard say, hey, we're going to have an opening in our research department. Would you like to come up and apply for it and interview for it?
Yeah.
I said, yes, of course. Like, that's great. It's a wild thing to get that recommendation internally for something you didn't even know about.
Yeah.
I go up and I'm wearing my best ill-fitting suit. I've got my Venom tie on. It's an Eric Larson Venom, the tongue and the green.
Yeah.
I'm like, this will impress them. I'm a child. I'm still, 22, 23, whatever, out of school. And so I go up, and they're in Congress at this point. I'm living in Long Island, and I go. It's great. I drive up there. I just bomb. I flop sweat in the interview. I'm in this conference room. I'm looking up, and I'm one-word answers. Like, I just froze, and it was terrible. Joe Iannarello, who was the managing editor at the time, he's like, I could see it like, I got it. This is done. Like, let's wrap this up. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Off you go.
Yeah.
Go to my car. Forgot to turn the lights off on my car because it was like I had to have the lights on for whatever reason. Car battery's dead.
Oh my god, this is like everyone's like anxious
Yeah.
anxiety nightmare of like,
Terrible.
at least it's over. I bombed the interview, made a fool of myself. I can just go home and cry now. No, you can't.
Nope. Go to the car, walk back in. Can someone
Give me a
jumpstart my
jump,
car?
yeah.
Joe comes out. This is like a guy who doesn't care about comics. He's a sports guy, but he's a really hard-nosed, good manager. He's J. Jonah Jameson in some way. And so he's like, all right, gives me the jump. Fine. Continue freelancing for months. I get another phone call like, Ryan, we've got a different job. There's a price guide assistant for Wizard.
Sure.
One more try? You want to come up? Yes. Come up. I've already bombed. I've
Yeah.
learned what I need to learn. I've gone through the worst experience.
Yeah.
I go in, crush it. I don't remember it,
Yeah.
but I crushed it.
Yeah.
I remember at this point now, I'm living in Brooklyn. I'm still working 2 different Blockbusters, and like trying to do all this stuff. Living in Brooklyn at the time, and I remember I was walking down the street in Greenpoint, going for a sandwich, and I get the phone call. I have like my little flip phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, grab it. It's Wizard. We'd like to offer you the job of price guide assistant for Wizard magazine. You'll be making 21,000,
Wow.
23,000, something
Dude,
like that.
what a payday.
It's like, yes, sign me up. I live in Brooklyn. This is like past Westchester.
Yeah, I was gonna
where
say, this is upstate, right?
this is a terrible idea,
Yeah.
but I want to do it. This is how you do it. And so I make that move. Like I say, I'm going to do it. Great. Start it. It goes really well for what it is. I end up moving up there. I end up taking over the price guide within a month of being there, sort of redefine what that meant. And for me, I was very close with the retailers, because it's a thing. How do you figure out what the price of a comic book is?
Yeah.
You have to talk to people. Like you call up a comic book shop and like, what's hot? What's good? What are people asking?
Really, I never realized that was me. If I'm sure many of you aren't comic book people, if you don't know, like one of the big deals of Wizard was at the back of every issue was this price guide that showed you how much comics were worth, so you could price out your own collection and see again what was up, what was down. It was like the stocks every month.
Yeah, and they had a system for it, and they had a terrible database that was like archaic and like constructed by like people just hammering stuff together on a computer. And
well, it took forever somebody to get a program that worked on that. I remember with our second home computer, my mom coming home with the box of like, here you go, like a birthday present or whatever, to put my comics in, and like going through, and it was like so obtuse, and it didn't have the right information for what I was trying to enter.
It was rough. And so they had ways that they did it, and I thought, well, we have to figure out more ways. We have to get this information better. So I worked on that. I ended up working on, I was a big video game guy, so I would like to work on the video game section of the magazine. And eventually I took that over. I like independent comics. I want to take that over. So I would like slowly amass pieces of
becoming Wizard
things. We had a great team there, friends that I have now, like for my entire life.
Yeah.
I became an associate editor. And so when I made that jump, that would have been like 2005 as associate editor for Wizard. I think I started 2003, 2 years there, working my way through. So become an associate editor. And so Wizard at the time, like any major publication, different people have beats. And so there was someone who was the Marvel editor, Marvel contact, someone who's the DC contact, someone who's the Image contact, someone who's Dark Horse, someone who's Hollywood. Yeah. And so their part of their responsibilities was to liaise with whatever that company or Hollywood and to figure out what we put in the magazine. So when I'm at Wizard, they make me the Marvel contact, which is great because I'm a Marvel guy. Like that was a reading from childhood. And so I start that as the Marvel contact, which is wild to think about. I'm an outside guy. I get all this access to everything that Marvel was planning in terms of the comics. And stuff. I remember going to the editorial retreats for Marvel where they would plan out 2 years of stories before or like while Civil War. No, it was before Civil War. They blur, right? But like going to these retreats and hearing them break story and put things together, and you've got guys like, Jeff Loeb, Ed Brubaker, Brian Michael Bendis, J. Michael Straczynski, Dan Slott, many writers. Sure. Figuring this out, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, getting to know them, getting to know the editors, and so I built relationships with the people at Marvel. And there was a summer of 2006. I'm visiting Marvel headquarters on one of my regular visits to do my job.
See what's happening.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, Ryan, just go and do your thing. And I would walk around to different editorial offices. Okay, what are you guys working? What's got you excited coming out in 3 or 4 months that we can put in the magazine? What's the information?
Cover stories and figure out features and stuff.
Yeah. And so I do this, and I'm like super cash. I've got Most Precious Blood T-shirt on, which is like a metal hardcore band that I know. I've got camouflage, cargo shorts on, and I'm walking around, and then I hear, Ryan, hey, come on over here. And it's a vice president, a guy named John Dokes, off in an office. What are you doing? Have a seat. Let's chat. And I'm like, all right, John. We start talking, we're talking, and eventually he brings in, he's like, yeah, let me bring someone else in and talk to you. This is Pete Olson, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I'm like, this is a job interview.
Yeah.
Oh. And so it's an ambush job interview that I do well at, and they want to bring me on as associate editor for Marvel.com to do Wizard internally at Marvel
Sure.
in a rough sense. Basically, hype, promote,
Totally.
do it in brand.
We
journalism.
saw the same thing. Right around that time frame in video games, right? Where it was that people started getting scooped up from your IGNs to go to Ubisoft, to go to Bethesda, to start the PlayStation blog, to go out there and be like, well, why are we relying on other people? We can write this ourselves and bring our never have our community leave the .com and never leave our space.
Yeah. And so, creating blogs and doing all kinds of stuff. So that was the beginning.
And were you torn? Did you want to leave Wizard? I mean, was it just that cool to be like on the inside of Marvel?
It was cool. I'm a Marvel guy. I love Wizard, and I had a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But that's the move, right? I'd watched my friend Alex Segura, who's an amazing writer, and then he's president of Archie right now. And he's the best. I watch him move from Wizard to DC. I watch other friends move from Wizard to a different company. Like that was just the move. Wizard was great.
At the time? Because I mean, we've talked. Obviously, we're friends, but like. It's so awesome how much your story mirrors my story in terms of how it all went down.
It's wild.
Is that how it was at Wizard, that people were there? I'm sure there were the lifers who I'm going to write about comics and entertainment forever. But were there people similar to how it is in the video game industry of like, I write about games and review games, but I'd love to make games and I want to see those connections get over there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely people who went into that route. And, comic editing is such a creative part of the process. I look at that as making comics just as much as writing or drawing them.
Of course.
As I see the process up close. And so, a lot of the staff became comic book editors. There was a running joke at Wizard and DC in those days, like, oh, it's another Wizard guy.
Yeah.
And I was like the fourth Wizard guy at Marvel at one point. Like there was 2 editors, there was someone over here.
Yeah.
DC now still has a bunch of former Wizard editors who are making comics at the editorial level, and then there's tons who are making comics, writing or drawing or whatever. Yeah.
It's funny, again, the way our stories mirror each other, because I always talk about, my thing, and I applied at IGN, 13 times on my Gmail, I didn't have access to my Mizzou, and it's on the 13th time I got it. I put it in while you were talking, of course, right? June 28th, 2005, 11:25 a.m., Wizard Entertainment application. I send an email to Kyle Ackerman. Kyle, and I haven't read this since I sent it, and boy howdy. Kyle, hi. You should be getting my hard copy of my cover letter, resume, and clips tomorrow or the next day for the video game writer / copy editor position. So you should probably bring an extra pair of underwear to work tomorrow. My application is going to be that good. I look forward to talking to you, Greg.
I'm surprised that didn't get past.
How did I not get a response?
Like, look at this guy. What is his deal?
Honestly, I got that call. I did. That was you talk about blowing the interview. That's what I did. Is that it would have been what if that was I always thought it was I had a call with Inquest Gamer and I did freelance for Inquest for a while.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I did. I did like 1 or 2 pieces. One about like it was when I was already working at the Trib, so it would have been 2005, 2006, probably off of failing this interview so spectacularly. But it was that I did a thing about this group of Marines that were over in Iraq, and they were playing like Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan, and it was like how gaming was a distraction for them. An interview I did all through email with them and stuff. But yeah, my Inquest interview is like, I always say, again, that you get this story out of me when the normal shows don't. Just 2 times in my life where I couldn't stop talking. Number 1, which is a story, if you listen to the video game content, you hear enough of the first time I met Dan Chu from EGM, where I just like lost it. And I mean, I already work at IGN. Like I'm in the industry. I was peer, lost it and couldn't stop talking. And Dan was like, okay, leave you. Let me see you later. And the second was the Inquest Gamer phone call. When they were like, they were going to start a video game section of that magazine.
No, I remember that very, very well. I was still there.
I got the call and it was like, how are you, Greg? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? Great. So what have you been playing? And I was like, and it's like in your head, you're like, stop talking. Why are you talking so much about BioWare right now? Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. And I couldn't. And they were like, all right, talk to you later. Click.
Wow,
like,
this guy was too much.
Yeah.
Next.
But it was the same way like you, right? Where then when I got the IGN call, I was like, listen to the questions. Let them ask you questions.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be psychos about it.
Can you, like, What If is a big thing for me, like the comic series that we do is one of my favorite comics. But
me too, man.
And
that, man, are you talking about that Disney Plus show one day? Oh my Lord.
Oh boy. But just the what if of reality. Tom Brevoort, who is one of the he celebrates his 30th year at Marvel really soon, and he's edited pretty much every great comic you've read from Marvel. His hand has been touched on in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
He's worked on the Avengers and through so much. And I was talking to him recently, and like, he wasn't a Marvel guy growing up. He was a DC guy.
Sure.
He applied to be an intern at both Marvel and DC. Marvel is the one that got back to him. And my what if is,
What if DC did?
what if DC had gotten Tom? Honestly, I think the comic industry would be so different.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
And so what if you got that Inquest
Sure.
job,
Right.
and you would have moved
To
all
New
the way to
York?
New York,
Yeah.
and you would have, it's wild.
It's crazy to think about that. We talk about it all the time with stuff like Dan Riker, Giant Bomb,
Yeah.
right? He had gotten the call too for the IGN job I got. Like, he had applied for that and I guess got calls too. So it was like right there's that coin flip of like what I've ended up at Game Informer and then Giant Bomb. You know what I mean? Like, how would that have worked out in the long run? Would I have not made it at all? Would it have been, just been a newspaper man my whole life? Would it have never caught up? It's crazy to sit there and think that. But so it wasn't, you were ready to go to Marvel. Like, that's just awesome. Yeah.
It was the time. It just felt right. It was okay for it.
Did you think that I'm going to go do this thing, which again at the time was radical? We're going to do our own content. We're going to make our own stuff. We're going to have our own messaging. Did you think you were going to do that and be there 13 years? Or did you think you were going to go do that and this will fizzle out in a bit?
I thought, like, I'm going to go to Marvel. I never want to leave Marvel.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. There was a point where Mike Cotton, who's now an editor at DC, when we were both at Wizard, we were talking about, moving to these other companies. What would you do? I was like, I'll be editor-in-chief. And he's like, okay, so what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know.
I'm gonna they're gonna make good comics, and I'm gonna be the guy telling them to make the good
I'm gonna
comics.
tell them what
Can
to
you make the
do.
comics better? Make them better.
And so I think at one point I thought, well, I want to make comics in that way. And as I've done what I do so long, I'm like, I love doing what I do.
Yeah.
I love sharing our stories with people in a way and shining a spotlight on stories. You know this because the best friends, the community is so strong. You hear from people. I tell you, like, oh, I checked out a game because you guys talked about it, or whatever it is. But like, all the time I get messages from someone who listens to the shows that we do, and like, I started reading this because you guys loved it so much. You were right.
Yeah.
And now I went back and bought, like, that's why I do it, because I want people to experience these things. And so, yeah, I think now I don't want to make comics. I like to celebrate all of Marvel.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I ever thought I would leave, or it would fizzle. It was just like the direction I would take would change within Marvel, which is always good because a lot of people do move around within the company. There's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
But, doing what I do is fun.
Yeah. So when did you notice it start to pivot away from you're writing a lot to you're being on podcasts, you're being in front of the camera? Well, I mean, is there a moment for you when you realized you became a personality? Because I remember distinctly at IGN one day when you followed someone on Twitter, and everyone's like, AgentM just followed whoever it was in the room, and we're like, oh my god! And it was a big deal that you, like, because for all intents and purposes, you were like, for a lot of people, and are for a lot of people, the face of Marvel. Like, people get their Marvel news from you. They hear you talk. Like, it's always that same thing with me and talking about video games, right? Where it's not fair that I have all these Twitter followers and I have a career, and like you talk to a developer who did your favorite game, and you can be in the same room as that and not know that.
Yeah.
But I talk about your favorite game, and people know me and celebrate me that way.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was part of it was the Twitter of it all. Like, I remember reading an article in Wired about Twitter the beginning of 2007.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is awesome. We got to do this. We got to be part of this. And Warren Ellis was writing comics, and because he's always 5 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
He is like putting Twitter in comics, and I'm like, this is something important that we need to find a handle on. And so I invited Biz and Jack from Twitter to Marvel, be like, how do we work together? And so that was a big part of building it, because working with Twitter, and like, there was an elevation just that they didn't tell me that they were going to like put me on their homepage one day.
Yeah.
And back when Twitter had a homepage with these people are good or whatever it was. And
it's always the recommended, right?
Yeah,
I remember our friend Veronica Belmont,
Yeah.
like when she had like 1.6 million followers, and it was like, granted, that's still a huge deal. this is back when nobody had it. And like,
Right.
how did this happen? She's like, I logged in, I got at Veronica, and they're like, oh, if you like video games, she likes video games. There
Yep.
you go.
Yeah, and that was just something that happened, and that became part of it on that side. And then on the Marvel side, it was just we needed someone who could talk and who could do things, and I'm fairly okay with Word, and so I would do videos or whatever. It wasn't an intentional thing.
Sure.
It was just like, oh, I'm able-bodied and can do these things, and it just sort of grew from there.
When did you notice, or did you notice? It's so crazy to think back 13 years ago of what Marvel as a brand was compared to now. Like, is it how I look at IGN? Like, when I started IGN in 2007, it was Grandma's Boy. It was all these guys who had grown up and founded this site together, still fucking with each other, still being a bunch of clowns, being a bunch of idiots, not worrying about anything, right? And then now you go to IGN and everyone is so professional, and I would have never gotten hired there, and I don't know as much as any of those people.
Yeah.
Like, is that like what it was to walk in there? Was it like a crazy clubhouse?
It wasn't a crazy clubhouse. It was more mom and pop, but still like professional. But like we're slightly underdoggy. We're the like we're making the cool comics, the cool stories. We've got something that touches people in a certain way.
Yeah.
We know it. We're smaller, much smaller than we are now.
Yeah.
And everybody sort of knew each other. Everybody worked closely. Like, I was the 6th person hired for digital media. I'm still there. We've got, I don't even know how many people, probably somewhere close to triple digits,
Yeah.
just across, new media, what we do everywhere. And it changes. But you try to find that balance, that corporate culture, that family.
Yeah.
Bring the different groups together, still to this day.
Sure. And I imagine, even though things have changed, people, and like, it's less mom and pop or whatever, it's still the same idea of why would you want to work at Marvel? Well, you want to work at Marvel because the brand means something to you. Comics mean something to you.
Yeah.
These stories mean something to you, right?
Yeah. I mean, very much so. Especially for me, and I think about that a lot. It's like, I look at the people who come in, like talk to them about Marvel, and hope that they have that connection.
Yeah.
Because when I have that connection, I give that connection to the people who watch our videos, who read our articles, who whatever engage with the things I do, and I want other people to find those touch points. Like Lorraine Sink is a co-host of mine on much of what I do, and it's the same with her. And like I think I gel with her so well because she is that pure love and authenticity about Marvel. And so I think that's really important, finding that. And I think that is, to me, is the most crucial point. Whether it's me or someone else, we got to give that to people.
When they announced they're doing Iron Man and this starts happening, right? Like, what are your thoughts for the movies? Like, obviously it's exciting. There's more movies, but at this point, Spider-Man had already been happening off with other people. We've seen movies come and go. We saw Marvel, of course, sell the rights to these people, right? Like, you've been there and you're focused on comics. Did you, when they say Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man and stuff, are you like, yeah, this is a great idea, or what?
I think it's weird because I remember the campaigns for building that up and like the things we had to do to inform people. Like, yeah, Iron Man is cool. I didn't grow up as an Iron Man fan.
Sure,
I
no.
barely knew the character.
For me, like I always talk about, right? It was Wizard talking about Demon in the Bottle all the time, where all I knew was like, all right, cool, he isn't a robot and he's an alcoholic. That's what I knew about Iron Man.
Yeah, and I knew that there were great stories, but then I never had that connection to it. And so for me, I needed an education. I think internally, we all had to get on board and figure it out. And like, there's always that like gamble, like, is this going to work?
Yeah.
Because the other movies that have been done are varying levels of success and quality.
Sure.
Like everybody loves X-Men movies or Spider-Man movies or whatever in varying degrees, but this was us making it and being involved with it. So there was trepidation. There was like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. I didn't know that creative team that well at the beginning, and but they had the vision.
Yeah.
And it was like they knew it. And as we went along, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember the screening, the friends, like the Marvel internal screening that was days before the premiere, days before it released in 2008. And we had done promotion, and it was like everything looked great. And I remember the screening. I'm sitting next to My friend Alejandro, who was a comic book editor at the time, he was at Wizard with me. He had made the jump right around the same time I did. He's now an amazing comics writer and editor and stuff. But we're sitting next to each other, and the credits start to roll with that beautiful, the sequence with, it's all well designed and
the
everything.
outlines.
The
of
outlines,
yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah.
Like, that was incredible. It was like, whoa! Everybody's like crazed. Funny thing, we didn't get the stinger on our screen.
Oh, yeah. That came in so late, remember? Yeah, the Avengers stuff.
We're Marvel. We didn't get the stinger on our own version of the movie. I had to hear about it online from somebody else.
Then you went and paid the ticket, didn't you? And you saw it. Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Yeah.
See, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember, again, walking in not knowing anything and like, all right, cool, it's superheroes. I want to support superhero movies. I want more because it was so hard to get them for so long. But yeah, I'll never, ever forget being in that theater and he's just like, I'm Iron Man. And they all jump up and it ended. And I remember turning to, I don't remember if it was my ex-girlfriend or friends or whatever, and just being like, that was incredible. Like I felt like there had been such for superhero movies in general too, that I'm gonna protect the identity. I'm gonna do this. Like, it was formulaic, and so to get there and not have that be how it was going to be, I think it was such a great glimpse into, as somebody who was raised a DC kid for the most part. Clone Saga is what drove me away.
It's fine.
I know. I've come back, but I remember that was like such a great inkling of what the Marvel universe is and why Marvel is special. And obviously with the MCU and then reading more comics than ever and doing all these different things and coming back to it, like after Iron Man and stuff like that, learning how that universe works and what makes Marvel special, and the fact that it is happening in our world. You know what I mean? I'm going to screw it up so bad right now. You probably know it better than me, right? That the difference between Marvel and DC is that DC is gods coming down to be men, but Marvel is men wrestling with the abilities of God, right? Where it's this idea that, like, it is New York, it is Chicago, it is San Francisco. Like, this is happening there. Like, why would Tony Stark try to hide this if he's this boisterous playboy, right? No, he totally owned this, and that's what it would be. Yeah. Whereas Spider-Man, obviously, whole thing is responsibility. He's going to hide that from people because he has a responsibility to protect his family.
Yeah. I mean, look, everything goes, for us at Marvel, goes back to the DNA that Stan, Jack, Steve, Flo, like the original bullpen, what they built. That the idea of the world outside your window, the idea of, like, these are humans first and foremost. Or the thing that Bill Roseman talks about is, like, the best Spider-Man stories are Peter Parker stories. Yeah. That has always been true, and that will remain true. And that, you think about that. Yeah, of course, a character like Tony Stark is different from a character like Peter Parker, but the reason we connect with them, even though they're very different and we're very different from them, is because they're human, and we like recognize those parts of them. I have read DC books and stuff like that. There's some stories I love. My favorite DC story is Superman Secret Identity, because it is a very Marvel story.
100%, right?
And
this guy named Clark Kent.
And like the frustration. Oh, man. There was a book we recently put out that reminded me of that. And I'm like, I pulled the issues to read, for the Secret Identity to read, just because it was like, man, this gives me the Jones to read that story again.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why your stories and Marvel stories find that way to resonate and stand out, because it is dealing with that, right? On the Comic Book Club, we talk about everything we've been reading and the pull list and all that jazz, but it's always also the best thing you read this month I pull, right? Mine is Marvel Comics 1000, specifically the story we're calling him Ben, right? Brad Meltzer and Julian hold on. I'm going to get it. Hold on. Totino Tedesco.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
There
Thank
you
you
go.
very much. My brain locks up when I got to pronounce the words I'm reading. But if you have, like, I saw that on Reddit before I even picked up my copy of 1000, and just, if you haven't picked up Marvel Comics 1000, do. It's what I love the most, where it's like, what's the essence of a character? Let's tell a one-page story about that character. And it's just one page after one page after one page about everybody through the Marvel universe, right? And that one of Spider-Man saves a pregnant woman. She wants his name, so she'll do the honor of naming the baby after him. And he won't do it. He keeps getting around. Finally, he thinks about it. He goes, Ben. And then it's this cut of all these different parents naming their kids Ben because he saved them. It's like, oh yeah,
I teared up, and I immediately sent a message to Brad. I was like, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing he's ever done for us. Brad Meltzer.
Really? I didn't know that.
Brad's a friend, and he's a Marvel fan and everything, and he's this amazing author and storyteller, and he's done a ton of work for DC.
Yeah.
This one page is the first thing he's done for Marvel, and
That's
it, like,
insane.
Flipped the table.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's what I mean, like, and that's why I know everybody loves Spider-Man, right? Because he is selfless and it is a responsibility. But even it's on my list right now. Actually, I don't have to do the grow up around. It's on my pull list again from Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 11. Of course, Tom Taylor, friend of the show, who we love to death. But I loved this Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man run, right? Him doing an issue that's all MJ, all from MJ's perspective, right? And like her bubble of being like, right, like, with great power comes great responsibility. It's not Spider-Man, that's Peter, and Peter thinks his responsibility is to everybody, right? And so seeing her take care of him, take care of Aunt May, take care of everybody else in New York when the troll attacks the subway, it's like, yes, hell yeah. It's like, these are the things that resonate, right? And why I love seeing people take 80 years of something, right, and give us more cerebral stories of it, where it doesn't always have to be the fight scene. It doesn't always have to be the punch, right?
Yeah.
It gets to be taking mythos we know and love so well and twisting it and making it something special. Even the other one I had on my list here that DJ Kento did too was the new Spider-Man one, right, from JJ and Henry Abrams. Like,
Surprised the heck out of me.
Me too. Where it's like, and I don't want to, like, that one's a what if tale, right? Where it is, a whole bunch of stuff happens, and what does that turn Peter into, and what does it do for Peter's child, and what does it do for Aunt May, and what does it do for It's like, wow, like, I love the fact that, especially now, where we are in 2019, that even if you haven't picked up a comic book ever, you've watched these movies, you get these core values and characters and stuff, that you can go in and pick this up and, okay, cool, I understand where we're jumping off from.
Yeah.
I get it. That's what the power of comics is, let alone Marvel, right? This brand that is so strong and now so everywhere. That's the one thing, I guess. You asked me on one of your shows earlier today, what's it been like, right? Seeing our passion grow into something else, right? Where literally you can't get away from it. What is it like for you as somebody who's been Marvel for so long and represented the company for so long to now not be able to go anywhere and not see something somewhere? We left the show last night we did at the Cartoon Art Museum, which is back in San Francisco and awesome. We did This Weekend Marvel podcast. Walking to dinner, we walked by this wall, and Jen's like, "Oh, look!" And we stopped, and it was Spider-Man, Hulk, and Cap graffiti, like, that had been done, and it was all awesome. It was like, jeez Louise,
it's great.
Yeah,
I love it. The MCU has been really great for a number of reasons. Amazing stories with these characters that we love and giving them to new audiences. And that giving them to new audiences has been so fruitful and so important. I talk to so many fans who are reading the comics because of the movies and because we've gotten so big. I love that. I want everyone. There should be no gatekeeping about, like, when we were younger, it was a little bit like, there are some people who are like, "Oh, you read comics," and the other people are like, I read comics. You can't read comics." And like, I don't want that. I want everybody to read comics. I want to give comics to everyone. I want everyone to realize why this medium means so much to me, why these stories do, and then you take that and it blossoms out into these amazing video games, and we're doing these incredible podcasts, these, like, fiction podcasts.
Right,
And
the Wolverine one was great.
The Wolverine one. We're doing a Marvels one. And I sat down in the producer's offices, Harry Go and John Cirilli. They played me Ben Grimm, and I was like, oh, that's Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, these stories, I think everyone should experience them. So hopefully it's comics. But if you start with the movies, great. Then check out what else is there.
Are you seeing an uptick in that? Has that happened? I mean, in conjunction with the movies? Like, I don't pay attention to the numbers. Like, is it year-over-year growth of people doing it, or?
I don't look at those numbers either. I mean, we are. I think based on Diamond Comics, it's probably we can have half the market every month.
So you're doing pretty good.
We're doing okay. We're fine. It is probably upticked, but it's just so cool. I've seen it since 2008, 2009. More and more people. I think of people who are frequent listeners to our shows who read comics now because of the movies and because of our podcast.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up, they'll tell me that. And
well, it goes back to, again, the mirror image here of why video games are the way they are now. Of when I was growing up and super into games, my other friends liked games. They didn't play games like I did. They didn't save all their money and wait in line till midnight to get the console. They didn't call Toys R Us looking for the latest wrestling game, right? It's the same way with comics, where it's like, I loved comics, right? I would go there and pour over long boxes, and Dad would get the Wizard World tickets, and we would go for 3 days and just go booth to booth to booth. And like, that's a special person, but it was isolating. Yeah. Because I knew that Poe didn't like video games like I did, or Mike didn't like comics like I did. But I remember the first thing it did when we got AOL and was AOL keyword, right? And it was comics, Marvel comics, DC comics. Like, go to message boards, find it. I remember being so foolish back then, but maybe forward thinking, that when I remember going to marvel.com and being like, I'll be able to read the comics here, right? And it was like, no wallpapers to download. I was like, oh, God dang it. All right, fine.
They did do some digital stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
And they were forward thinking, and they just didn't have the support or the technology.
Well, the infrastructure. Like,
it just
there's
wasn't
no
there.
way. Yeah. Especially with internet. I mean, like, you think about, like, I was last night on my iPad, I was starting to download all the Apple Arcade stuff because the new iOS on iPad's finally there. And it was a thing. Wait, how big's Comixology? And I was like, oh, geez, 25 gigs of comics. I gotta, let's trim this down. I still own them. They're in the cloud. I don't need them all local, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And that was the thing of, like, we couldn't have done that back in the day.
No.
Yeah.
You're talking about video games. I think another funny, like, mirror thing. I was a Genesis kid.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I know you were a Master System
and
kid,
Genesis, yeah.
But
I was Sega
first, but I wasn't a Master. I came in.
You
at
started
the
with Genesis. That was a smart move.
I had an NES, but then I went to the Genesis, and I remember like the box and playing
like so cool.
Samurai Showdown, playing that. Genesis had cool games, and I have still the monstrosity that is the Genesis
32X,
32X, like.
Did you get the classic?
Hazard.
Did you get the classic Genesis?
Not yet. No, I want one.
They did it. I don't know. Well, before you leave, we should check if it's still on Tim's desk, because not only did they do the Genesis, of course, then they did all the pile-on stuff. We have that all in there of like all the stuff of just make it look like it used to.
Why don't I just pull mine out of the closet and just plug it in?
Right, exactly.
Take 3 massive ACs and put them in the wall and hope that
put them into one power brick and hope nothing explodes or goes poorly. Yeah. So now, completely left turn.
Great.
Tell me this MySpace story. How did you find you found these half brothers and sisters? Did you know they were out there before? Did you go to MySpace to look for them? Or you're like, oh, this music's good. Wait a second. Who is this person? Am I related to Tom?
I'm listening to these hot tunes. Tom, help me out. I knew that I had siblings. So, my father was from Colombia. My mom is like an Irish German lady from Queens. And they had, my mom got involved when she was very young. It wasn't the best relationship. She had me when she was 23 and like got a divorce and like got out because it was abusive and dangerous. So we left Florida, Miami, where I was born, when I was 5 weeks old and came up here. He basically, so he didn't have to pay alimony, gave full rights and like for her to like get us away.
Wash his hands of it. Yeah.
And so he goes off on his own life. We go off on our own lives. And I may have met him like twice in my life. Got like 2 birthday cards or whatever it is. I think he got me Super Mario Brothers 3 at one point.
So not a completely terrible person.
Yeah. Well,
Oh no, I'm fucking around.
No. But and then somehow because he died when I was a child. It's weird because I remember the phone call my mom called my friend Michael's house when I was a child.
How young? Ballparkish?
Must have been 10 or 11 because my mom called to tell me that he died or he was dead, and I was over at Michael's house playing Spider-Man. Genesis Spider-Man. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't really know him. Can I go back and play Spider-Man? And mom was like, okay, as long as you're okay. Were you
really okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it messed me up a little bit down the road, and like whatever. Everybody's got stuff,
of course, And I think in general, just not having a relationship probably also compounds.
But my mom is the most amazing woman, so it's fine. And I had great grandparents and uncle and everything. So, but I over the years found out, he had a child before me, who in Colombia. And then 2 children after me.
Okay.
The woman in Colombia I've never tracked down. I think I know her name. I'd have to look at some paperwork or whatever. But I was like, I want to know what these other Penagoses are all about. So I go on MySpace and I found out from my mom what their names are, Vanessa and Derek. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's look them up. And I find them. And like, this is weird. And like, I look at the picture.
Did you like do like a whole like it's gonna take all night? Oh, there they are.
It was kind of. It was like this, and this was like 2006 or 7, and I found them and I just sent a note and like was just honest. Was like, hey, I think we have the same father. This is my story. I think we're siblings.
Yeah.
I know this is probably odd, but just want to say hello. And then we built they were a little like freaked out at first.
Did they know about you?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I see them every once in a while now. We have a good relationship now. Their birthdays are in September.
Or it just happened.
Yeah, and like I have a nephew from my brother, and so like I sent him some comics, and he like watches YouTube and sees me on there, and like it's bizarre because I grew up as a single child, and now having this that part of the family, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You see him often? Is it like, are you like bros, or is it just like, this is cool? Like once in a while,
It's cool. Like,
okay.
I went and we were taking a cruise in January, left out of Miami. So I was like, hey, we're going to be in Miami. You guys want to get dinner?
Nice.
Had an amazing night just hanging out and talking.
That's awesome.
It was really good.
What do you think about, your dad not being there for you? What does that do to you wanting to be a dad?
I mean, it's been a big thing. For me, my wife and I have been together 10 years. Our 10-year anniversary is the first day of New York Comic Con. She has
what a way to celebrate.
She has a panel because she just put out a book, Rebel Girls. Buy it now. Elizabeth Keenan. And she's on a panel. I'm working from 8:30 to 7 or whatever it is. So like, our 10th anniversary is going to be, it is what it is. But we've been together a long time. We wanted children, and we didn't think about it at first because it was just like, all right, let's just live our lives.
Yeah.
And then we had difficulty, having children, went through a lot. And so now we're on the process of adoption.
Yeah.
And we're 2 years into waiting for the call. Like,
Yeah.
literally every time my phone rings, I'm like, is it the agency saying, here's a child? And we got really close in January, and that was just like the highest high, the lowest low, because it didn't work out. So now I'm like, I want to go on vacation because I haven't been on a proper vacation in a long time. Even the cruise in January was a day of work.
Yeah.
And so I want to go on vacation, but that call could come in, and like if I'm in Iceland or whatever, I don't want to screw anything up.
Yeah, no,
But
totally.
I very much want to be a dad. I had an amazing grandfather who, a strong uncle, and like just great family structure. So I'm ready.
You've been public about the adoption stuff.
Yeah.
And I've known about it, obviously, for a long time, because I remember, I want to say probably, 2 years ago at Comic-Con, you had tweeted something on that day of just like, the final things are in motion for this to happen, for us to get on the list. And I remember congratulating you and you being like, thank you so much. It might not be like that, though, but it might be. We don't know. And it was that thing. And so how do you keep your spirits up? How do you guys keep doing that and going that way?
It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to live your life. That's that's what they tell you. Just do what you do. Try not to think about it, which is an impossibility.
Of course not. Yeah, as you talk about every phone call could be it.
Yeah.
It affects your vacations.
Yeah, like you can't build out a space for the child because then you're just driving yourself nuts.
Oh my gosh. I didn't think
because
about that.
like the baby room, you can't do that stuff like you would when you have a due date.
Right.
When we got to the point where we were told like a family has chosen you, like we had a meeting and all this other stuff, and like you get to that point, and we went with my mom and we got a big stroller, and it's like all this stuff, and then like days later things changed and their decision changed, which is their right to do.
Of course.
It's fine. I hope that baby has the best life, but it's like, oh,
I can't
give me a
imagine.
damn baby.
What do I have to do to get this baby?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's such a process.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
You live your life.
Important things
more
sometimes
tattoos.
take time. Yeah, I just got Mothra a couple months ago.
Very nice. Very nice. That's why you want Godzilla in review so bad.
That's right. Godzilla review. Let's do it. I can't be here for it. Sorry.
I was gonna say you can't come to. Yeah, I'll miss all 30 episodes, but it'd be cool if you guys did for me. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure you just every day you text me like you guys got it wrong.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why this isn't
Yeah.
where it should be.
You messed up. Tell me more about why Anguirus is the best friend. Anguirus is the spiky guy who starts out as Godzilla's enemy and then becomes his good
As
buddy.
most spiky boys do. They start
Right?
off as the enemy, and then
Yeah.
they go somewhere else, right?
Yep.
One more thing about your wife before we move on.
Yes.
I thought this was the coolest story you had ever told, and I saw you put up a photo of it a long time ago, but I didn't understand the context. When you said I do, Thor said it was okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So when we got married, we were married. It was a rainy day, and we were in this barn. And I think my producer Judy knows the story. She's heard it a million times. She's in.
Sorry,
the room.
Judy.
And so we were getting married and like doing the vows, and do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Mm-hmm.
And I said I do. And then it's like thunder, and I go, what? And it is like this big, there's a photo of this big reaction shot for me. And the room is like, everybody's blown out of their minds because just that moment, the heavens shake when I say I do. It's fun. And
That's
so,
incredible.
Yeah. It's almost like the Thor's like, you got it, kid.
So you can never get away from Marvel, no matter how hard you try.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan,
Yes.
now's a good time for us to check in with our sponsors. This episode of We Have Cool Friends is brought to you by Upstart.com. As most of us have found out the hard way, getting into debt is easy, but getting out is hard, especially if your credit score isn't great. Thankfully, now there's Upstart.com, the revolutionary lending platform that knows you're more than just your credit score. And they offer you smarter interest rates to help pay off high-interest credit card debt. I've talked about it many times. I came here to San Francisco, got a loan, and my rate sucked. This would have been very helpful because Upstart goes beyond the traditional credit score when assessing your credit worthiness. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter interest rate. Upstart believes you're more than just your credit card. They believe in you and they understand that. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes. And the best part, once the loan is approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day. The next business day! Over 300,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards or meet their financial goals. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt by consolidating everything in a one monthly payment with Upstart. See why Upstart is ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot. And hurry to upstart.com/morning to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate takes only a few minutes and it won't affect your credit. That's upstart.com/morning. Our next sponsor, you know him and I know him, Hims. You've probably heard us talk about Hims. Of course, Andy and Nick noticed their hair was thinning and they went to forhims.com to get help. They go there, they get to talk to a doctor. They don't have to make an appointment. They don't have to go to the pharmacy. They don't have to go see the doctor. They talk to the doctor online. If the doctor determines it's right, they will send you the gummies Andy uses for hair loss, the pills Nick uses. They will send this stuff to you. You don't have to go have conversations because, of course, who wants to do that? You're busy. You don't have time to go do all these things. You can do it all online at forhims.com. 66% of men start to lose their hair by age 35, and once you notice thinning hair, it can be too late. Instead, turn to forhims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional, and so can be going to the doctor and having those very awkward conversations that would be easier to have online. Just get it done right there, answer a few questions, the doctor review, and if they determine it right, they will prescribe you medication to treat hair loss, and it'll be shipped directly to your door. Try Hims today by starting out with a free online visit. Go to forhims.com/morning show. That's forhims.com/morning show. forhims.com/morning show. Prescription products are subject to a doctor's approval and require an online consultation with a physician who will determine if it is right for you. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go to see the website, see the full details, forhims.com/morning show. And the final sponsor of the day, Untuck It. The holidays are almost here, and you know what that means? Gifts. And what better gift for the guy in your life or yourself than a stylish shirt that fits just right? Unlike most brands, Untuck It shirts are actually designed to be worn untucked. Untuck It shirts always fall at just the right length, no matter his size, so he looks casual and sharp. Ever see an untucked button down? They look bad. I know. I try to wear them all the time that way, and they're not designed for that. They're too long. They're all over the place. The buttons aren't where they're supposed to be. No matter your size or shape, however, Untuck It shirts always fall at the perfect untucked length. There's more than 50 plus fit combinations. They look good on tall people, short people, slim people, athletic people, any kind of people. You need a shirt that you want to wear untucked. This is the way to do it. You want to use Untuck It. You can find your own style because they have a whole bunch of different stuff. And if you don't want to just go online to do it, you can go to any of the brick and mortar stores. They have more than 80 of them to try it on yourself. So whether you're shopping for the perfect holiday gift or trying to craft a smarter, relaxed style of your own, Untuck It is the way to go. Visit untuckit.com and use the code MORNING for 20% off at checkout. That's UNTUCKIT.com. Promo code MORNING for 20% off. And just like that, we're here. Hey, comic book club kids, remember, you don't have to worry about it when it goes up. We're jumping into the friend zone. This, of course, is where people can write in to patreon.com/kindoffunny with their questions. Of course, since this is a joint episode with the comic book club, not only do we have the We Have Cool Friends questions, we have the comic book club questions all ready to go.
It's like a great team up.
It is a great team up.
Yeah.
Man, it's a good crossover. Jericho writes in and says, being behind the scenes like you are and knowing how secretive Marvel is about the movies and their comics, do you also struggle with keeping secrets in the comic book world? What is your biggest secret? Don't worry, we won't tell anybody.
So this is, I love telling this story. So the first meeting I had when I was at Wizard.
Yeah.
So the Wizard 2003, right? One of the biggest comics going at the time was Batman Hush.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, incredible, great story. And when I start there, it's like midway through, somewhere in there. So the first meeting I go to, first week at Wizard, maybe it might have been the first or second day. We sit down, we're in like the lobby area. There's like 5 of us, and then we're just chit-chatting, and then we start getting into it, planning out coverage for future issues. And Andy Serwin, who was one of the editors there at the time, he starts talking about stuff, and they start talking about Batman, and they get to the reveal of who Hush is.
Right.
It's like 6-7 months before. Probably
First
longer
issue
because
ever
it was
drops.
a little delayed at the end.
Yeah.
Love you, Jim, but yeah, it was a little delayed at the end. And so they reveal who Hush is and hit out the last beats of the story. And I'm like, guys, what the hell? I'm reading the story. And he goes, shut the fuck up. Everything you ever love will be spoiled for you from now on. Deal with it. And that's what Andy says to me. And I go, okay. All right.
I can never enjoy anything again.
No, and it's the opposite.
Really?
It is, everything can get spoiled, but I deal with it. I've learned to just love the art, the story, the journey, everything about it. And there's still surprises, but
Sure.
like every Marvel movie, every Marvel TV show, every Marvel video game, every Marvel comic book, everything we do is spoiled for me. There are little bits and pieces and surprises that, but I now have this deeper appreciation for everything we do and like the way we get there and the technical ability of all the amazing artists who put this together. And that, I think that moment was like that slap in the face that I needed at that time.
Sure.
To help me deal with knowing all this stuff all the time as someone who is so closely connected to it as a fan. That said, don't let spoilers get in your life. If you can avoid spoilers, like
It's the
avoid
same
them.
thing with us, right? In games, where it's just,
Yeah.
obviously you do a demo, right? I went and played 2 hours of The Last of Us, right? So like, I know how those go, and like obviously we have plenty of friends who make games who you talk to about story, and they do say things. They don't, you do know where a reveal is going to be or what it's going to be, but you enjoy it for a different reason.
Yeah. And so I think I have all the secrets in my head, one way, shape, or form. Like we just at Marvel, we do an editorial retreat. The publishing group does an editorial retreat where CB Cebulski, who is our editor in chief or whomever, brings in 10 plus writers, all the editorial team, some schmoes like me who get to hang out and listen.
Just
and
listen and have fun.
and like think about. I do my old school Wizard thing.
Sure.
Think about our coverage. I wrote 24,000 words of notes at the retreat. I have all those 24,000 words of Marvel comic secrets for the next 2 years. And, it's those things that are so important to keeping them locked up in here because I'm not going to be the one to mess up the amazing stories that our people are telling or hurt you guys who are listening and watching, because I think that is a hurtful thing. I don't want someone to get spoiled on something that can have such a great impact on them emotionally or just for fun.
This is something you'd think I would know, but I don't actually in the digital age for comics. For like IGN, who covers Marvel comics, and Joshua will put up exclusives and stuff like that. Is it the same thing anymore where you have different people coming to the studio to talk about what's coming in the months? Or is it, since it's digital and quicker now, easier to blast them a preview copy, I guess, a few days before and be like, there's going to be a big thing and we need to talk about it?
I think it's a mix.
Yeah.
We do work with a bunch of different outlets and publishers. I'm not on the PR team.
I know it's not a 100% fair question.
We have amazing PR team like Tim Chang and folks like that, and so they have ways that they do it, and there are trusted people. It's difficult. We'd like to keep those secrets inside the building as much as we can, but there's loose lips everywhere. You know, people find out things and they share things, and you're like, gosh, damn it, stop that.
I remember when I got so excited and I retweeted the first time Andre Roux put up the kind of funny logo on his sweatshirt, and I tweeted out, you tweeted back, you're like, that's a panel from a comic that comes out tomorrow. And I'm like, how'd I get it? I don't know. Some kid tweeted it at me.
Yeah. How'd they get that?
I don't know. I
don't know. I love Andre.
He's the best, right?
Just the best.
Yeah. He's going to be at New York Comic Con. He was like, can we finally meet? And I'm like, I'm not coming this year. I'm not doing
I want to meet him. I want to say hi. I love him. Can I give 2 shout outs?
Of course.
Right now?
Are they about books or people?
People.
Okay. Because your next question is about shouting out books.
We'll shout out books in a second. Tim Dillon, who's on the Marvel television marketing team. He's a big fan, kind of funny. And he's like, I'm jealous you're going to be on Comics Guy. I'm like, we'll talk about you, Timmy.
Don't worry about it.
So Timmy, and then Luis, who's on our production team in New York, is a best friend, went to your last meetup in New York. And so he's pissed that I'm here. I'm here without him.
He's like, how can I get in? How can I come do anything? You're like, no, don't worry about it.
Trust me, he's doing some fun stuff. He's working on our video game stuff in New York.
Oh, then he's having a great time.
On the promotion production side.
Tell me about what Insomniac's working on, huh? What's going on with that one? Yeah, exactly. Brandon Jackson Shorts writes in and says, what's the best thing about Marvel that isn't getting enough love? Is there a book that I should be reading, an artist or writer I should be following, a game that isn't already big that I should keep an eye out for, or a show I should be watching or getting excited about?
That's oh my
huge
gosh.
question, right? Because I'm sure there's a thing for every one of those. What book isn't getting enough love in your opinion?
It's hard for me to know what is or isn't getting enough love, because there's books that I said. So I do a show called Marvel's The Pull List, or Marvel's Pull List, every week, where we go through every single Marvel comic, and I tell people why they should check them out. For me, it's a very important thing. I won't tell you I love something if I don't love it.
Sure.
I can always find something good in a comic. Man, that lettering was great. And if I don't love it, I'm not going to tell you that comic is great, you should buy it. I don't think that's genuine. I will never do it. I will tell someone about a book.
When you walk that line, are you ever critical of it? Of like, I didn't like this book at all.
I try not to be critical, because I think we have relationships with these people.
Sure. Well,
there's a lot for me, and we're not a critical show. We're not critical. That's not my role. I'm more of like, I want to tell you why it's cool, not be a critic about it.
Sure. 100%. 100%.
So, I think about these things, and so in one of our most recent episodes, we had Immortal Hulk and Runaways out the same week, and we do 2 picks of each. Myself and Tucker, my co-host, we each pick 2 books. We're like, these are the 2 books we believe in the most, we love the most.
Gotcha.
That these you have to read, and I said, Immortal Hulk. Some weeks, sometimes I'll pick it, sometimes I won't. Just assume that it's a guarantee.
Okay.
Every time an issue of Immortal Hulk comes out, it is without question a book. If you are not reading it, you're doing something wrong in comics.
And this is the horror one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing for Runaways. The Runaways comic right now is without question better than 90% of any fiction out there. It is so good. The storytelling that is being done by Rainbow Rowell and André Genoulet and everybody else on that book is mind-boggling. And it's really there's subtle things that they do with acting. Doing what I do now so much is talking about the language of comics, and acting in comics is such an important thing. You don't notice it until you notice it.
Yep.
You have a face that just doesn't make any sense. When you see something, what Andre and what before him, Chris Anka, who I know is
a bum.
Come on.
No, we love Chris. He's a kind of funny best friend too. He's coming back to the comic club soon.
Good.
Or no, I think both we have cool friends in comic club. Doesn't matter. Go.
There you go. What they're doing as artists and telling stories. There's a 2-page spread in one of the issues of Runaways where Carolina goes to therapy, and it is, I think it's 16 panels over 2 pages, all straight on. So it's 4, 4, 4, 4, and all straight on of her, and you just see her in the chair. It is one of the most riveting 2-page sequences in comics of the last year. It is so good, and because of her body language and the subtleties of her movement, her face, the emotion, the dialogue, like Runaways, go read it right now. It's on Marvel Unlimited. Greg, I got some codes for Marvel Unlimited. I will give them to you. Give it to who is this question from?
That question right there was from, I scrolled past. Oh, it was Brandon Jackson Shorts.
Okay. Give them a Marvel Unlimited code. We'll get that afterwards, and I got a bunch more for you to give to the listeners and the viewers. Read Runaways, please. Read it. It's so friggin' good. It hurts.
Now, here's one, and I don't know if this is the exact same, so stick with me.
Yeah.
Katie writes in and says, what run would you recommend for someone looking to get into a Marvel series other than Spider-Man or Star Wars? Outside of the MCU and Spider-Man, the only Marvel superhero stuff I've experienced has been reading one-shots. Is there a specific character, or better yet, a specific run with a great character, or a specific run with great character moments that you'd recommend as a starting point?
Sure. So this question is always a difficult one for me because I want to have a dialogue.
You have the follow-up questions.
Yeah, all right, so what kind of stories do you like? Yeah, MCU stuff is in there, but like, if you were to sit down and pick a book up, what book would that be? If you were going to go watch a movie, what would that movie, like, what kind of stories do you want to hear or do you want to read? I think that's an important thing because we make comics and we make all these different things, but there's a horror, like you said, Immortal Hulk is a horror book.
Right, completely different.
It is terrifying and disturbing and beautiful and messed up and action-packed and funny and dark and weird, but it is a horror book. So if you don't like horror,
doesn't matter. This book won't work for you, right?
It might not be the book for you. It is messed up, and I love it. At the most recent issue, I don't know if it's out yet, this is not a big spoiler, his Hulk's face is melted off, has been melted off, and it's melting in his hand, and he takes the melting flesh and throws it at a bad guy, and it melts that guy's face.
That's awesome.
That's Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
Read Immortal Hulk.
All right.
But like, Runaways, I think, is a family drama that is wrapped up in teenagers and superheroes, but it's a family drama. So if you like family drama, that's going to be a cool thing. You have mentioned Tom Taylor's work on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man or All New Wolverine. I think that,
All New Wolverine, great jumping off point.
Oh my gosh, yes, so good in there. I think, there's Fantastic Four right now by Dan Slott and a whole bunch of people is incredible. I think there's a whole new mess of X-Men that is the X-Men book starting with X-Men #1, or you can read House of X and Powers of 10. And that is sort of the perfect jumping on point to see the possibilities that comics can give you.
Okay.
And it's just big and weird and fun. So there's lots. Hit me up on Twitter. Tell me a little bit more about what kind of stories you love, and we'll go from there.
Love it. I love it. AgentM on Twitter, but you know that already.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Mitch Krasson writes in to patreon.com/kindafunny to be part of the comic club just like you can. It says, hey, Ryan, what are the coolest trends that you see in the current superhero space? What do you see your competitors doing that inspires you in your work?
That's a great question, Mitch. So first, I try to read other books. Like, I don't have time.
No, if you're reading every Marvel book every week, let alone doing your job, the podcast, this show, that thing. 17
to 25 books a week. Jeez. And I'm an insane person in how I deal with, how I do my job. So Marvel's Pull List, I have a great co-host, Tucker Marcus. He comes in, he's got a great mind.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any notes. He knows what he wants to talk about. Boom. I can't do that because I've got all these different things. I write 5,000 words for myself.
Yeah.
You saw my script for This Week in Marvel.
And it's like a script of what you, not that you're sticking to a script, it's what you want to say and you don't want to miss anything.
And I have to write it as if I'm publishing it as a piece because that's the way my brain works. So I do that for every single book that comes out. So it's like, 50 to 300 words per book for every book that we put out. So suffice to say, I read a lot and I put a lot into these things. I don't have enough time. Like, I just had to give away a stack of DC books that I didn't get to. Stuff that I really, really wanted to read, like Sam Humphrey's work, which I love Sam's work, stuff that Brian's been doing over at DC. different things, like just wanting to catch up. So I unfortunately don't have a chance to catch up on all their stuff. But I do look at, stuff that like.
What's the trend you see at Marvel? Because again, you've been there long enough to know the trends as they come.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that's a great question. It's tough. A trend we see, I think, I see a lot of characters pop up at times, and like it's weird to see like who's in the zeitgeist of our creators' minds, unintentionally or intentionally. Like a villain will show up. Nightmare has been showing up in numerous books in the last like 6 months. I'm like, what is happening? Are our guys not?
Why is
guys
everyone suddenly caring about this?
Not sleeping, and they're doing Nightmare not as a joke, but like a really cool, messed up villain. Whether it's in Doctor Strange or in these other books, like. I don't know about trends. I wish I had a better answer for that one. I just, I think we'll see how Jonathan Hickman's X-Men stuff affects other people and the way they want to tell stories. I think that could be a cool trend.
Eric C. writes in with our final question from the friend zone and says, with you being so familiar with Marvel, how is it for you to see Jonathan Hickman seemingly uproot the foundation of the X-Men damn near every week? Does it make you excited for the future of Marvel Comics as the fans seem to be? And while you're here, this is me now, Greg.
Yeah.
Can you encapsulate what is happening right now with House of X?
All right.
What's the basic idea of House of X?
It's part of
House of 10. Sorry. I said
House of X and Powers of 10.
Yeah. I combined.
Sometimes they call them Hoxpox.
Hoxpox.
The tricky thing is I don't want to spoil it for people.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful about that because it does what was it Eric?
Eric C.
Eric brought up like this is feels like a big change. And it does. It does feel like a big change for the X-Men. It is reorganizing their place in the Marvel universe, giving them a way to say we are planting a flag, literally and figuratively, in the ground, saying we are here. This is the new normal. Deal with it, or else.
Yeah.
And that is because of a character named Moira McTaggart, who is I do This Week in Marvel History.
Yeah.
Part of the This Week in Marvel podcast where I look at everything that's happened across our history in a given week. And so recently, Moira McTaggart's first appearance was it came up. Her first appearance, she is brought in as Professor Xavier's housekeeper for the mansion. And in the first issue, the Nagari demons also appear for the first time. She runs into the fight where all the X-Men are fighting horrible demons with a shotgun, and she's like, I'm a blast ya! And she's got this Scottish brogue, and she comes with a shotgun, and Banshee's like, no. But she's actually, what we learn later on is she's a brilliant biologist and biochemist and all this other stuff. One of the most brilliant minds in the Marvel universe. In House of X and Powers of 10, we find out that she is actually a mutant. Her mutant power is that she goes through her life, she dies. When she comes back, it is like the beginning of that cycle again. So she is now her second life. She remembered everything from her first life, and it is back when she was in the womb and comes out and has to then move forward. And so the story hinges on what she knows and what she's seen, what she does, and who she tells. She tells Magneto and Professor X. And the story sort of blossoms out from there, seeing the different lives that she leads and the different paths for mutants. And so they need to figure out the best path because they've seen the ones that lead to mutant death and destruction and horror. And so it sounds crazy and radical, but this is X-Men. This is what the X-Men are. Part of why I love this is it is the X-Men story. It is them surviving, trying to survive. Matt Rosenberg, who was on This Week in Marvel with us, talking about the X-Men weren't like a bright, shiny super team. They were fighting for their lives every second. And so this is the X-Men saying, we have been fighting for our lives, and we need to do something crazy and radical, or we are dead. And I've heard Jonathan tell his long-term plans for this. And it is amazing. And it is the most X-Men, the most Marvel story while still being crazy and radical and bananas, and try not to get a spoil for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you did a great job of selling it, and everybody needs to start picking it up.
I hope so. And it ends real soon. I have the last issue, Powers of 10, number 6, in my bag to read tonight or tomorrow.
Barrett, steal his bag!
Barrett, how dare you?
Sorry!
I'm going to read it, and I've been holding off.
Sure, yeah.
But now-
you find that right moment.
Yeah, but we're starting off Dawn of X, X-Men number 1, and a whole bunch of new books. Like, I want to talk about it, but we can't yet.
We'll come back. You have to come back and
I
do
will
more with
100% come back.
Ryan, thank you for being one of our cool friends.
Yeah,
Thank you for being a best friend, too. You listen to just about everything, it seems. I hear you all the time.
I like
about
the
it.
things you do.
You're a good man. If you want to keep up with you, where can they?
Agent M on Twitter and Instagram. I do 2 main podcasts for Marvel. Flagship show, This Week in Marvel, which I've been doing for 8 years. We have never missed a week.
That's consistency right
Literally, holidays, everything. We've never missed a week. So that's a really important show for me. That comes out every Friday. We do some bonus episodes. We just had Mega Ran on and MC
Mega.
Lars. So he's a best friend. He's a cool friend of yours. We do that show. Some big news hopefully coming for that show real soon. The other show, the comic book based show, is called Marvel's Pull List.
Yep.
We do that every Tuesday. So the idea is
Great preview.
you're going to go to the comic shop or go to Comixology, your Marvel app, whatever it is, on Wednesday. We got you ready. Here's what you need to read. Here's the characters, and like, hey, I'm a fan of Mysterio. I didn't know Mysterio was going to be in this book. Guess I got to pick that up too. Give us your money. That's what we do.
Unabashedly.
Oh yeah, come on. And also on the video version of Marvel's Pull List, we announce some books once a month and tell you some stuff that's going to happen. So we have some cool stuff coming.
Right.
Oh yeah, I do a show called Earth's Mightiest Show. You were on that.
Yeah.
That's on our YouTube and Marvel.com and all that other stuff. I host all kinds of random things
You're
for
very
Marvel.
busy.
Yeah, we just did a 9-week long tournament for Marvel Contest of Champions. Which was real fun. I co-hosted that. There's plenty more to come.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is We Have Cool Friends. Each and every Monday, we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing because they're cool people. If you like that, go to youtube.com/kindafunny, subscribe there, listen on podcast services around the globe. However, don't go anywhere. If you are already supporting us on patreon.com/kindafunny, you should be watching this. It's ad-free there. And we're about to do just the required reading for Greg's Comic Book Club. Issue number 19 is what I said, right?
Yes.
Yep, nailed it. It was We Stand on Guard. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to have a conversation about We Stand on Guard, you still have a chance to read it. What I didn't prep you for, of course,
Yes.
every guest on the Comic Book Club picks the thing we'll read for the next month.
What?
So you need to come up with, while we start talking about We Stand on Guard, what it's going to be. Patreon.com/kindafunny. You can click over and watch us talk about that right now and pick next required reading unless you're already here. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of We Have Cool Friends with Agent M himself. I have an update for you. This, of course, we've been recording so many We Have Cool Friends. We've been banking them, rolling them out over time. Since we recorded with Ryan, great news. As the tweet behind me shows, on October 15th, 2019, going to the adoption agency with Bad Conversation to meet our daughter and take her home full of emotion and jitters. That's right, everybody. We talked about in here how long Agent M and his wife have been trying to adopt. It finally happened about a week and a half after we recorded this. So huge round of applause for Mr. and Mrs. Agent M. You can go to Agent M on Twitter, share the love, tell them thank you so much. And of course, thank you guys so much for watching We Have Cool Friends and supporting one of our newest shows, here at Kinda Funny. We love making it for you. We love the conversations we get to have with it. We love growing it with you. We do have a programming note for you. As many of you have noticed over on the shows and in the morning shows, Internet Explorers took a break and went and rode the bench while we doubled up on In Review doing Star Wars and Mandalorian. Here through the end of the year, this is your final We Have Cool Friends for right now. Not forever, just for the year. Instead, we're going to go and bring Internet Explorers back in, put We Have Cool Friends on the bench for it, and then get to 2020 and bring it back. I assure you, We Have Cool Friends is not canceled. It's not going anywhere. We're happy with the show. We want to build the audience. We love the flux of it. We want to find out, keep doing cool interviews with all of our cool friends. Nothing's changing on that front, but we wanted to let Internet Explorers ride out the year. So, final We Have Cool Friends for now. Like, subscribe, share. Share your favorite episodes with all your friends. Tell them they should be listening to it. You're going to be at Christmas, right? You're gonna be at the table, cutting things up. You're eating turkey and stuff, maybe some ham. Good, I love a good Christmas ham, Kevin. And your mom's gonna be like, "So, what's been going on at school? Like, what do you do? You're going to the gym. What do you listen to? You're a long haul truck driver. You're like, I listen to We Have Cool Friends, Mom. It's a cool show. You should listen to." And your mom's gonna be like, "I don't really care. I don't know who these people are." And you'd be like, "Don't you know Devin Sawa?" And she's gonna be like, "Casper? You're gonna tell me?" These fuck faces you listen to talk to Casper, and you're like, yeah. And then what about what? I'm sorry. Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to connect with the mom necessarily. She's cool. This mom's woke. All right, cool. And you'll be like, what about Eric Matthews? And you're like, you're going to tell me, you fuckface, you had Will Friedle on. You had Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond on this show. You'd be like, I did, Mom. And well, I guess I'm talking to my mom now. The first person, third person kind of changed up there. Guys, it's been a pleasure serving you. We'll be back in 2020. Love you.